I think you can regard it.
Good evening, everyone. Just calling this meeting to order here. So thank you, everyone, for joining in our, I guess, yearly joint Park and Recreation Commission and Sports Commission meeting. Welcome, everyone. Just wanted to say good evening. My name is Marco Rivero with the Park and Recreation Commission, the staff liaison to that commission. Also joined by Tyler Remerell, who's the staff liaison to the Sports Commission. We've also got various staff from the Department of Parks and Recreation joining us today. Wanted to let folks online know that this is a hybrid meeting, so we have an opportunity in person for folks to join in, but also online. We'll also want to remind our attendees that this meeting will be recorded and that just began. We ask that commissioners, presenters, and attendees please mute your microphones and turn off your video feeds if you're not speaking. For those attending via telephone, you can mute and unmute your microphones by dialing *6. The top toolbar contains a raise your hand function in case a commission member has a question during the meeting. Commissioners and presenters may share their screens using the share content box that's above. The chat box will also be checked routinely, but mainly to address logistical questions or issues during the meeting. During the public comment period, the agenda items, the chair will recognize virtual participation first if there are any from commission members, and then in-person attendees. As a way of information, we'll be holding a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. Each public commenter will have up to 3 minutes for public comment, and I will signal to the speaker once time is up. Thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to both the chair of the Sports Commission and the Park and Rec Commission.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Barker. I'm the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, and I'd like to welcome our brand new commissioner. This is her very first meeting, Adriana Lynn. So thank you for joining me and welcoming her. And this meeting is set up on these little tables. So the first exercise we have is an icebreaker. Am I okay taking it?
Go ahead.
Everybody at your table exchange information about your favorite facility in Arlington. And I have to say facility because it's the Sports Commission and the Parks.
And what we'll do is for the small group discussions, because there will be another opportunity for that later in this meeting, I will mute microphones, and then once we're finished, we'll turn on the microphone again.
Okay, thanks, Marco.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
unless you need us.
Everyone.
Okay, let's wrap it up. We've got about 1 minute left.
About 1 minute left, okay. Thank you.
I love
Right. Yeah. Think we're ready? All right. So after that, just wanted to move forward with the next item, which is just the acknowledgement of the fiscal year 2025 budget letters, and just acknowledging that both commissions will be offering their own letters for that. With that said, we move into the public comment period. So we did want to recognize online if there are any public commenters who wish to speak. Anyone online that would like to speak? All right. So hearing none, I don't believe there's any in person as well. So with that, we'll move forward with our presentation on the fiscal year 2025 budget.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jill. How are you? Hi, I'm Jane Rudolph. I'm the director of Parks and Rec, and it is fun to see you all. I like to come to this meeting once a year and see the commissioners and present the budget and answer your questions. The budget can be confusing. And so today I'm joined by Keisha Holland, who's our new finance officer, I guess, for our department, and she has been with us since September. And then Megan Mahler is our operating budget analyst, and she's been with us since March of last year. So it's been kind of we're all growing into this together. But I'm here to answer your questions, but they can also jump in too, because they know some of this are nuts and bolts better than I do. Do you guys mind if I sit? No, that would be a little more casual. So I'm going to go through the presentation, but feel free at any point during the conversation to interrupt me, ask questions. This year's budget's kind of confusing, and so it's kind of worth it to take a little time to go through it. So I know this is kind of far away. We'll share this with you if we haven't already afterwards.
There are also printed copies.
Sweet.
Yes.
Great. Well, you'll see one of the things we cut is our printing budget, but but not yet, exactly. That's not this. But anyway, so this is a timeline. This is actually probably it kind of just helps you to understand the process that the county goes through for the budget. We have a couple of really important things coming up. As you guys talked about, Marco said, you guys are going to be writing these letters. That's where your chairs, I believe the chairs are going to be available this year, are coming on April 2nd is the DPR work session. We share it with libraries, I think voters registration and compensation this year. So that's the afternoon from 3 to 6. It'll be online and it'll be saved, but anybody who's welcome to come. It's a county board work session, so the public cannot speak, but they can listen. But that evening and on Thursday are the public hearings. So that's an opportunity for you as individuals to come speak if you have a question about it, not in your role as commissioners, because that goes through your commission chairs and your letter. So that's the timeline. The budget will be adopted in May, at the April board meeting. And then in May, because we're in a capital improvement year, which is our capital plan, the county manager's draft comes out in May, and that process will come through and be adopted in July. So that's a second process. So this is kind of like a heavy budget year for us. So there's both operating and then there's the capital budget. And separately, we will work with your commission chairs again to make sure that you guys are briefed on what's happening on the capital side afterwards. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I saw some that kind of there's definitely some confusion around those different funding streams and what they mean. But what we're focusing on is operating, which is all what we call net tax support, and which is the funding that we get from people's taxes that help to fund county government. and also the revenues we bring in for the various fees that we have for the program services that we provide. So again, any questions on that? So the next slide is just, just so you know how we operate in DPR and how we work. So as I said, I'm the director. We have a deputy director who's online with us today, Jennifer Feet-Ready, who oversees a lot of things, including what we call our whole administration unit, which involves public relations and HR, and the finance team falls under her as well. Then we have Cheryl Johnson, who does the community recreation program. Those are all of our programs for our kids as young as the preschool age, all the way up to our 55+ program, where we have people participating who are even over 100. So those are all our programs, from camps to community centers to, not community centers, to senior centers to preschools. And then we have our Parks and Natural Resources group, headed up by Mike Simmons. That is everybody who takes care of the parks and also tends to our natural resources. Nikeish Jordan oversees our athletic facility services program, which is part of what the Sports Commission lives under. And then that has all of our facilities, all of our sports, all of our classes, and contracted camps. And then finally, we have our park development program, which is where we plan, design, and build all of our facilities, and Marco works in that division.
And maintain, does maintain in that as well?
So maintain is under Parks and Natural Resources. And so we always just like to tout how awesome we are, because we are, and we're awesome because of people like you as well, but we are continually ranked as one of the top 10. Arlington County gets picked counted as a city for the Trust for Public Lands annual top 100 cities, and we've been top 10 for years now. And then we also become ranked the fittest city and all these other things as well. And I think you can see that in our facilities like this, but in the programs and services that we provide. And so this is, again, our proposed operating budget. So as we said, we talked about both our expense side and our revenue side. Our expense budget, which is what we spend, is going to be over $62 million this coming year. It is an increase of almost 9% from last year. That increase is, and that amount, a lot of what our funding goes to is for personnel, right? That's like the biggest cost for the county in general. But you can see we included for you all the breakdown of how many permanent employees and temporary employees we have in our department. I've been here for now, scary, for 11 years. And when I came, we had well under 300 employees. So our staffing numbers have really gone up. And I think that's just because of building facilities like this. We really, like, you always remember the old Love Run, didn't take many people to run it. So on to the next slide, unless anybody has any questions again, we can always go back. So this year, as I said before, it's kind of a funky year because we have a budget gap, but later on I'm going to be talking about also budget adds. So the reason why that is that the county manager, working with direction from the county board, there was a gap. Like, the county's revenues, like, that were coming in, were too high compared to the county's operating budget. There was at one point they thought even like multi-million-dollar gap. Now they've got it down to, on the county side, there's also gaps on the school side, around $12 million or so. That's because it just happens, right? Revenues is always kind of things are changing in the county. We have high vacancy rates. Luckily, residential came in higher than they thought. Some business taxes came in higher than they thought. So our gap was less than we anticipated. The other thing is the county has been often filling gaps using one-time funding, which is not considered a great budgetary exercise, right? You shouldn't be using one-time funding to pay for personnel, because those employees are going to be there the next year. You can use one-time funding to, like, buy something or do a project or something, but you don't really want it to spend on personnel. So that gap existed because we need to kind of make sure that we continue to be able to pay for our employees. So we have been asked for, this amounts to about $1 million, a little under, about $900,000 in gaps that the DPR is filling. And as I said, there are across the board, any of you look at any of those other work sessions, and it's on the budget website, you can see a list of all the cuts that happened. But these are the DPR specific ones. And we are looking to eliminate our personal training program. We are looking to eliminate our DPR programmer position. That DPR program position is what we call currently, it's called limited term position. The county manager has put funding in to fill it for almost the entire next fiscal year. So that position, although it's being cut, because it's currently filled, they're enabling it to go on for one more year until that term is over. And then a programmer position that's been vacant. We also have a reduction in our landscape contracting services. We've reduced the amount of how much we transfer to the APS pools. We used to be in a partnership with APS pools. Some of you all may remember that, where the DPR was in there teaching classes and having what we call community time. APS no longer has us in there, so the funding that we used to transfer for that quote-unquote community time has kind of gone down every couple of years. So now this is our last amount that we're cutting. We've reserved some funding because our aquatics club, the Arlington Aquatics Club, still uses lane time there. I'm just saying this for all you sports commission folks. And so we can pay for, we rent lane time from them now. So we are in a rental model with APS. And so we are going to no longer transfer money to them for their operating. And then we also reduced our printing for sort of, you know, I was joking when I was saying this paper is printing, but we used to print a lot of more glossy stuff. We used to print a lot of our catalogs, and those things we are really no longer doing as much. So we were able to take a pretty big cut in printing. So before I move on, does anybody have any questions about budget cuts?
Yes, landscape services. What does that doesn't include maintenance or anything to deal with athletic facilities, correct?
Just baseball fields.
Yes,
Oh,
of course.
yeah, so
No, and this is landscaping around buildings.
It is landscaping around buildings.
Yeah.
So it is like the traditional landscape areas. And this cut is cutting it at a certain time of year. So we're just kind of, so basically we're not going to be maintaining them as much in the winter. So what we're going to see, particularly if there's a warmer winter, you might see some more weeds, potentially could see some more trash, but we're cutting down the amount of time. Yes, so those are those like landscape beds that you see in various medians and some of them are more developed around the county, but no, it does not mean fields, and it doesn't mean like areas around sort of fields, I guess is where, not part of that at all. Any questions else on the budget cuts?
Are you getting, how much pushback are you getting on the personal training program? A fair amount?
No, I mean, so the personal training program was started in 1994 as that concept of personal training was becoming kind of like more of a thing. People were bringing their personal trainers to our fitness centers, which is not allowed on county property. In general, you're not really supposed to be doing business if you're not in business with the county. And it was also taking up space in our center where people were wanting to just exercise and recreate. There was like somebody having like a private service. So at the time, our department decided to create this program where we offered it, because we often found like if there was a demand, why don't we offer it? The program itself has really gone in different, but it does not support itself anymore. It is supposed to be 100% cost recovery program, and it is not meeting that goals. So it means that people's taxes are basically supporting a program that is like 100% individual. And think about how it works. And so we just don't feel like we should be supporting it. And while there may be means to kind of bring it back, the energy of not just the folks who are in the program, but the staff that support it, probably our PR staff, all of those people would be a lot. So kind of a lot of effort for what I personally feel like is not 100% appropriate use of a county facility. Is kind of intense individual use. I'd rather use our time to do group training. So all that to say, there currently are only about 58, maybe 60 people in the program. We have heard from some of them who are pretty happy about it, but at the same time, we've offered them opportunities to meet with our fitness staff that are going to stay, help figure out a program that might work for them, see if there's classes we can get into that for them. For us to keep the program going, the cost would be probably beyond what even a private gym costs. So yeah, we've heard some folks because they appreciate the service, but if you think in the scheme of how many people who are receiving those services, it's really not that many. Sorry, that was a long explanation, but I didn't.
Yeah, it was helpful.
Where is this happening?
TJ and Longbridge.
Longbridge swimming pool.
Well, on the second floor of Longbridge swimming pool is a pretty large fitness area, so it's happening there.
So there's one-on-one training that's available,
That's what this personal training is, correct?
and anybody that lives in Arlington can have access to it.
you have to pay for your sessions, but correct. The current session cost, I mean, it's a pretty good deal, which is why surprisingly not many people are not into it, but they're not. We used to be fully cost recovery at one point and just haven't been, and kind of the program kind of lost steam during COVID and never made its way back. But
It doesn't seem like it's included or.
well, because it takes up a lot of space,
Yeah.
or sort of, so it's always been kind of been around for a long time.
So when is the last day of the end of the fiscal year?
The county manager's cuts, Megan and Keisha, I believe the last day for the employees is at the end of May 31st, I believe. And so as a result, that's when those employees will no longer work. So it will probably be done for the end of the fiscal year.
So go get your personal training now.
So we are not taking new clients. We actually, so one of the questions we've heard from people is, well, there's a wait list, and there is a wait list, and there's a wait list for two reasons. There's a wait list because we actually froze the program once we knew the cut was going to be taken. We also, this is why it's sort of just a frustrating program too. People want these training sessions when it works for them, and so that's often when it doesn't work for either the people we have on staff, or it's not a great time in the gym for us to be having one-on-one sessions. So I just think that the program itself doesn't kind of like match with our values. And so it just hasn't been able to kind of recover. So should we move on to, so on the flip side, when I said this is a complicated budget, we have cuts, right? So we have all these cuts because we kind of want to get away from this practice of one-time funding. At the second side, though, the board also told the county manager that he could propose a tax rate increase, which he did propose, and the board actually then advertised an even higher rate. And the reason for that tax rate increase, that even though we believe there are efficiencies in programs and things that we should potentially stop doing, there are other areas that the county is really interested in supporting. And those areas in particular are the environment, stormwater, and climate change, and then also teen and youth programming, right? And so I think we're the only department that gets to do both, right? Like most other departments are doing one or the other, but we're the weird like hybrid of having many lines of business that do things. So this is a really, for me, really exciting year on the additions that we're getting. We are getting, I mean, I can't even believe this. Like when I heard, like I almost cried.
Tears of joy.
Yeah, no, tears of joy, not like, oh, like what are we gonna do now? But this tree maintenance funding, we've been talking about this for a really long time. We've been getting one-time funding in our budget year over year for the past 3 years or so for tree maintenance, which is really one of the best ways to keep a healthy, like these are trees on streets, is to prune them. That's like known throughout the country, like that is a really like what you're supposed to do. And the best cycle is to be on a 5-year pruning cycle. That is how you're gonna have your sort of healthiest trees. And we were at one point at a 17-year pruning cycle. So it was great that we were getting this one-time funding, but it also was not, you never knew it was gonna be guaranteed. And now they are putting money in our budget that will cover the costs of the contract to do it and another urban forester who could actually oversee the contract, because we were getting to the point where we had too much work for the urban foresters that we have. So this is a pretty big deal. Forestry in Arlington has been incredibly reactive. People call into the public stuff website, and they see we go out and we address things. And we have not been able to do a proactive approach. And this funding and this position will enable us to, for the first time, really to like sort of consistently have a proactive approach. So it's pretty exciting funding for us, and we're really grateful for it. And there's a little bit of one-time funding because we will need to have a vehicle for this person and set them up with the right equipment. That's kind of what I meant about one-time funding, is that it's to like buy stuff, right? Not just to fund people. The next exciting thing is $300,000 into our invasive plant budget. Currently, similarly to the tree budget, we were getting this one-time funding, but even more than trees in some regards, invasive plant management is a multi-year approach on removing invasives. You have to bring in contractors that do it over 3 years, to what they call like sort of the active maintenance, and then we get into like sort of just maintaining it afterwards. And so you really, one-time funding was hard for us because it meant we never knew the next year if you were actively serving an area, we would have funding the next year, we might not be able to, which would really stymie the process with these invasive plants. So we only had $100,000 in our budget, in our base budget. And then for the past 2 years, we've gotten $100,000. And so now, again, we're getting $300,000. So the program is going from $100,000 to $400,000, which is pretty impressive. And I really appreciate on both these items, the county manager's commitment to the work that we do. So we're really excited for this. We just see so many opportunities both to remove the invasive plants that are all around the county, and then also to figure out processes by which we're then going to restore some of those landscapes with native plants. Those native plants, when they are planted, will help to also they just so much better absorb stormwater and do all these other things. So it's not just to get rid of sort of like the bad stuff, but it's also to help sort of regenerate what we want in Arlington County.
Jane, so some of this money could be used for native plant restoration?
We have to understand like how it can be sort of attached. We first want to make sure that we're funding what we can do in invasive removal, but we feel like around the edges, there might be some chance to also look at some restoration work too.
Okay.
So, anyway, so that's kind of exciting. And then finally, on the complete flip side, we also know that our teen population in Arlington has been going through a crisis in some areas, and really try to figure out how do we best support our kids. They are on their phones a lot. They have having sort of, we've heard two really sad stories of overdoses, and we've also just tried to figure out how do we work with APS and with our own kids to make sure that what they used to sort of more call historically like out of school time are having positive experiences and are in places where they feel safe and where they can have fun. And so we are part of a larger sort of movement we're working with like Department of Human Services, the courts are involved in this as well, the juvenile justice group as well, but we serve the recreation providers. And so to that end, we got this funding. Some of it is, we got about $95,000 in one-time funding last year to kick off all those Saturday night programs that we're doing for teens. They're mostly here, but then they're also around the county in different places. And that now is going to be put into our base budget. We're getting another teen programmer, which is really amazing, exciting for us. And then we're also getting some additional funding to just expand the programs that we're currently doing. So we're really excited for the opportunities to continue to support our teens. I think there's a lot more we can do in the recreation space. We are definitely, I guess, when you're looking at these streams of work they're trying to do between like, you know, intervention and prevention, I think the idea really is like prevention when coming to our programs. Ben Harris is here, he just joined us. He's our deputy director at the deputy division chief over at AFS, our Athletic and Facility Services, and their group just kicked off at Arlington Mill on Friday and Saturday nights, and I never know which one is which, but they do something called falling at the mill, and the other one is kicking at the mill, and it's nighttime basketball and soccer programs for only high school, because one of the areas we also have found that is a lot of our teen programs really have turned into tween programs, so like 7th graders, 8th graders, whatever, maybe up to 9th will come to it, but like no 11th graders that come hang out, and so we're trying to have very targeted programs for certain age groups and not let it mix. It's not working out so well. So, any questions on our teen stuff?
You said that other departments are also part of this. Are they also getting an increase in funding for this as well?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
I mean, they're doing it for their own types of things.
Sure.
Yes.
But I just want to make note that if this is going to be supported, it should be a holistic kind of
Yes.
thing.
There's definitely trying to look at a more holistic version, and I believe APS too, maybe getting some additional funding. Yeah.
In basic management, will the, also like, will fund staff as well, like how it will?
It will not fund staff. So we have 2 staff currently that work on the invasive program, and talking with them, they can manage this funding with this kind of work. Because a lot of them will be going towards contractor. All right, and so then, but wait, there's more. So we are also getting a new safety officer. This is really important for our department. Particularly, we currently only have 1 safety officer. A department our size really needs to have more than 1, particularly with our many lines of business. We have 1 person who is focusing on emergency management, safety, and risk. They do everything from vehicles and small equipment over at Parks and Natural Resources to also working with our staff on like how to, like where to put the gymnastics equipment. So, and Long Bridge Pool as well. So we've been asking for a while, and I think as part of the new collective bargaining agreement for our Parks and Natural Resources employees, There is in that collective bargaining agreement, a lot of stuff where you need to have a safety officer come on site to do inspections or to be there when there's accidents. And so just recognizing that we just can't have one person do everything. We're really pleased that the county manager recognized our need to bring in another safety officer, which I think will help to us as a department to continue our sort of push for a culture of safety across our department. We also, this is a net tax support neutral position, this admin assistant. We are converting current temporary dollars that we already have and creating a new FTE for an admin assistant over at in the 55 plus program. So that is not new dollars, but it's just it's a new authorized FTE. So it's just a new authorized permanent position, but not new money. We're getting some money for collective bargaining training. We're getting funding for a new EV vehicle, it's a truck we're excited about. And then in general, we're getting funding for increased contractual support. That's like because every year our contracts, anywhere from the landscape to mowing, to anything we do, those contracts go up. And so you'll see this in our budget every year. Then that's kind of when you start to see that percentage increase, it's that kind of thing that brings the county budget. It's not just employees, it's also the increase in these contracts.
What is the reference to capital improvements there?
So thank you for asking. We're going to break that out when we have it in our budget presentation. We're just talking about it today on April 2nd. So the other part is that we bring on a new capital project. For example, one that maybe has a restroom, we need to add that restroom to the contract. So sometimes, or if there's more landscape areas than the previous park had, we need to add those additional acres or square feet to the contract. So every time a new park comes online, we work with our Department of Management and Finance to look at what was brought online and recognize if anything needs to go into any of the existing contracts or gets added, we do that.
So if you're expanding a park or something with capital dollars, you're going to use the existing contractors?
No, our existing contractors, like the Parks and Natural Resources, existing contracts for things like we do Parks and Natural Resources. So for example, when Jenny Dean came on and we had the new restroom that now is open longer than the old one, those are additional hours a year that the
for maintenance of the restroom. Okay.
Yeah. So for maintenance of restroom, for maintenance of landscape bed, for adding it to the mowing contract, we'd have more areas to mow or those kinds of things.
Okay, more maintenance associated with
With capital improvements. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Can you explain collective bargaining training? That sounds like something about labor you need would put money into training people. What, can you explain what that is?
Well, so that's exactly what it is. So
Why would the county be paying for?
because we need to train management. So we have gone through a collective bargaining agreement. Parks and Natural Resources, now part of what they call SLT, which is Service, Labor, and Trades. It includes us. It includes the Department of Environmental Services, like the whole public works side of the household trade center. Just like the entire trade center is now under this, as well as the plant. And then so are some of the public service, the public safety officers who are not uniform. So like folks who write tickets and things and work at special events. So we all went through a collective bargaining negotiation with them this past summer and fall. And there was an agreement on the contract. And so now we need to implement the contract. It gets implemented on July 1st. And when that happens, I mean, we're already starting the training now, but there is an extensive training of the management side, similarly to that the employees have to be trained by their own union. That's not being funded by the county. What the county is funding is the training of management.
Okay. And how many managers are we expecting to be trained in this?
On the DPR side, I'm just trying to think over there, I'm looking at you guys. It's all of the park area manager. So it's all park area managers, all trades. Then there's second level that we call the TMLs. That's like the trades manager, like who work for them. So then that's it's probably like 30 plus more people, because then we also need to train on our HR side. We may even need to train some on our finance side. So like a lot of our administration also needs to learn how to understand this. It's a whole new way of working for the county. So I would say that there is probably 30 plus, maybe 40 people. And I'm just like thinking it through of people who need to be trained and kind of brought up onto this. And it kind of keeps going because these contracts are only 3 years. So you kind of get into one and then I think you basically start again. So we're just trying to figure out, it's totally new for us. So We're just trying to understand, right now, we're doing a lot of it in-house, and when this funding comes on, there are, contractors who do this for a living and help on the management side, and we're just trying to make sure we have the best, that our team feels supported, particularly when things get, like, if we end up going to disputes or things.
But this is potentially something that will have to be added to the budget on a regular basis.
The training dollars? Yeah, I think we're seeing this year as a first year of having it, right, next year. Like, so we kind of think, like, let's see how it goes, and then maybe, but we felt like, particularly as we were saying, like, because I was talking about how, like, one time versus ongoing, like, the training dollars can be one time, and if we ask for it again, we might need it, but I'm not too concerned, I guess is what I would say.
Okay.
Any other questions? So there's always the other side of what we do, right? We have our revenue budget. We bring in revenue from all the rentals that we do, from the class programs that we do, from the camps that kids attend, from all these different things. We bring in revenue, and that revenue offsets our costs, either, and that's all part of our county's cost recovery model that we've kind of tried to adhere to, where people who are getting the most benefit pay the most, and where things are more collective, costs go down all the way down to sometimes, obviously free things like our special events that we do. So we're proposing to bring in about $18 million in revenue. We feel like we're kind of finally getting back to pre-COVID levels of, we had some rough times for a while, but we do feel like our amounts are going up. And one of the things, though, even though we are bringing in this kind of revenue, we still stay really committed to, which is our fee reduction program, which is for people who qualify. We offer our programs at reduced levels. There's a whole schedule for that as well. And we always look to support people as much as possible to ensure that anybody can get into the programs that we have, no matter what. And some of the things we've done in the past on our fee reductions, like last year, and we did again this year, was opening camp registration up for families who do qualify for fee reductions a week early, so they can come in, make sure, without the sort of stress of having to be online at a certain time, come in, make sure their paperwork is all in order, so that they can then come in and register their kids for camps and kind of move on. This year, we had this year, in that 1 week alone, we had more fee reductions than we did for the entire summer camp, the rest of the registration year. So we think we're hitting it higher than we ever have before, thanks to some pretty extensive outreach, bilingual outreach that we did this year that we hadn't done before. So we're pretty proud of our fee reduction program. We always know that there's more we can be doing. But one of the things that we found, and I guess this is really on the next slide, is that we have not increased our fees barely in the past several years, partially because of COVID. We just sort of stopped doing it, and we just kind of didn't increase our fees. And so and as you all know, you can see when you go to the grocery store or anywhere, things are more expensive. And so we were hitting up that we were really realizing that the classes that we were offering, things we were doing, were not recovering the costs at the levels that we set them for. So we needed to do a couple of things in order for us to kind of begin to get back to those cost recovery levels. So we kicked off this year kind of an intense, comprehensive review of all our fees. One thing we did was across the board a 7% increase on all of our fee programs. That's in the fee schedule. Let me pause for a second. The fee schedule is different than the operating budget. It's a companion document. The board votes on it at the same time. Our fee schedule was released in February. That's the county manager's draft fee schedule, and it too will get adopted in April with the operating budget. But there are sort of companion documents. Everything's online for you to look at. So, and the fees are all there. So 7% fee increase for all of our classes, programs and things, but we decided that we need to start to take a bigger look at all of our sports programs in particular, and some of those fees needed to increase higher than 7%. And this is because for things like this is where we're really seeing it hard, is our refs, the costs, and I'm looking at some of these sports, so the cost to have refs come in for our programs, basketball is just gone up a lot since COVID. And so in order to do that, we had to increase some of our programs higher than just the 7%. So we did this sort of big review on sports. We realized we actually would have trouble offering basketball, for example, next year if we didn't increase those rates. And that's why we did sports just then. And then once we get through this budget, Keisha and Megan are going to kick off a fee review for all of the other fees in the county, so that when we come back next year, we'll also be briefing you on where we are there. So questions on any of our fees? think we have another slide, right?
Hit on it.
Oh, you already hit on it?
Yeah.
Thanks. I think I talked to it though. That's the whole 7%. Okay, so then there's the other side of the house, which is we also do our capital, right? I was talking about Marco's group that does like planning, design, and construction. And so on April 4th is the county's PAYGO, which is it's pay as you go. It's the operating side of the capital side of the operating budget. Not to be confused with the CIP. There is always an element in the operating budget about capital projects because these projects have some funding in it that come from operating budget. So some of it comes from tax dollars and some of it comes from bond. And so that is going to be on April 4th, similarly at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Similarly, it'll be online and it'll be recorded. Eric Beach, our division chief, will be giving the presentation for Parks and Recreation. But these are some of the capital projects that were in this year as part of the capital program for this coming fiscal year. So that's why there you see them showing up now. And I'm happy to go through some of these projects. So some of these projects have some PAYGO money, some operating money, and then some of them also have bond money as well. So our whole capital maintenance project program is there. We're going to be doing these projects at Bailey's Branch, Doctors Run, Douglas Park, Woodmont Playground. And then we always have some funding that's put forward for these different things every year. One of them is feasibility studies implementation. We often have to like pivot and do like a planning process or do a feasibility study. So this is funding that gets put in, I'm not sure if it's every year or every other year, but it gets put in for us to be able to have access to it if it comes up. It's also where how we, put in new equipment in our centers all the time. This funding is every 2 years, so we can do that. We have our field fund, which you all are aware of. That's not new, that is not county money. That is just how the county takes in the funding for the field fund. And then we finally, we fund our capital asset manager this way as well. So, and then we have these other programs as well that will be moving forward this coming year. So, and again, they're not all funded by operating budget. They have, some of them have operating budget in them. And then other, like our synthetic program, we just finished up Washington Liberty, and actually we're about to wrap up Williamsburg as well.
Done.
Is it open?
Williamsburg is done, yes.
I think it was open yet.
It's open for last Thursday.
Goal, place to go.
Excuse me?
That's the good old Christmas.
Speak up, please. Just sidebars.
Okay, so that's our capital program.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. I
Well, that's
know
the end,
I
don't worry.
keep harping on this, but I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So when I see this list, for example, on the right-hand side, I know that the National Resiliency Program of $2 million is
Yeah.
right out of the CIP.
Yes.
So are you saying that these are CIP programs that are going to be functional, if you will, in the next fiscal year?
Yes,
Fiscal year,
correct.
They have PAYGO, they have maintenance, money out of the
There's
operating.
no, so maintenance is, don't worry about the word maintenance anymore. Capital maintenance is still, in this realm, it's not operating at all. It's all capital dollars. We call it park maintenance as a way to I always think it's a confusing word, but basically it's like renovation money. But yes, these are the projects that either were funded that happened this past year or the projects that will be coming up in this next fiscal year.
So when Eric speaks on the 4th, will he be talking?
Yes,
about-
this is the time about exactly all these projects
Even though they're capital, they're from the CIP.
because they're going to be happening in this coming fiscal year, correct?
So we're expending the fiscal, so we're expending capital funds, and so it has to get approved
Yeah,
and the year will push there.
well, some of it, yes, exactly.
Okay,
And this has already been approved, right?
It was improved as part of the CIP.
Right.
The last CIP, and then some of it gets approved. Some of the funding that is part of the operating budget rounds it out. So for example, the capital asset manager gets funded every year as part of the operating budget. That isn't already approved. Similarly, the fitness room equipment, the feasibility studies, and then elements of some of these other projects have to be adopted as part of the capital component of the operating budget. And then the other ones that are bonds get funded through the sale of bonds. That also is happening all the time. And so as part of the CIP, in July, the board will both adopt the CIP and they will also adopt the referenda language to adopt the bonds that you guys will all vote on in November when you vote for the Parks bond, which I hope you vote for the Parks bond. You have the opportunity to vote for the Parks bond. Yeah.
Quick question, I should know this, Jenny Dean, Park Phase 2, What does that entail?
This is the big one. It entails the taking down of the warehouse.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so, as you may know, there's the warehouse, like right smack in Kenny Dean, where they like film like the news hour, the PBS news hour, and all that, you know, and so they are moving to their, WIDA is moving to their new facility across the street on Campbell, I think. That's where they are. And they have built that out. But when that happens, they've sold the warehouse to the county, and we are taking it down, and then we will finish out phase 2, which will complete the park. So this is pretty exciting.
It's a lot.
And when is that expected to happen?
The master plan will be starting in the master plan's already happened.
Right.
Design will be kicking off in the next fiscal year.
That's what $3 million for.
Yes.
I thought they already planned out what would go in.
So we do master planning, right? So there's an adopted vision. Then, even though we still do the master plan, we still have to do the design drawings, and that we kind of reopen often a smaller community process. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel here at all, but we will probably have 1 or 2 community meetings just to make sure that we sort of first show everybody what we're doing, kind of reintroduce what it is. People, that's where they get to sort of see how the design standards and how it kind of will look and feel. We had a small design process after the master plan was adopted when we did Jenny D. It wasn't very, I think we had 2 meetings. But we almost always do still have a little bit of a design process afterwards. But no, everything is sort of supposed to go where it was already planned.
Okay.
So Jane, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Could you describe what's entailed in the trail and bridge modernization program? Is this mostly paved trails and bridges attached to them? Or?
So currently it is paved trails, and it is bridges that are attached to them, just like right now the bridge down at Lumber Run is being done. So initially it was a trail program. It's into CIP, meaning that like it's a program, so it is funded you'll see it when it's released. It's not just a one-time funding program, it is a 10-year funding program. And where we do it is we are sort of restoring sort of legs of paved trail. And then when we had the big flood and a bunch of our bridges came down, and we did a big bridge assessment, we changed it just for trail modernization program to a trail and bridge, because we realized that we have to replace so many bridges as well. So it continues. As some of you may be aware, we are also doing a study right now on not paved trails, natural trails, recreational trails, I don't know. And so that's happening right now. So I think once that is complete, I think we'll have a better sense of what kind of funding we may need to actually maintain these natural trails and or to decommission some of these natural trails. Will also take work because you need to do some rebuilding of the ecosystem to stop people from being on those trails. And so that I don't believe will be coming, or we hope will not be coming out of this program, because I don't think there's enough funding in it to cover everything that needs to get done.
In terms of the natural trails, parts for this ones, is there any money in the current operating budget for that type of trail needs?
There is no, I would say there's not direct funding in it. The Park and Natural Resources budget has done work. They've used their budget, park area managers or some of the folks on the natural resources side have used their budget to do some trail work in the past. For example, I know work was done in Glen Carlin Park when mountain bikers came in and did all this, like, and kind of put in ramps and did all the stuff. We brought in staff and did a lot of work to kind of clean it up and to get rid of that. But we don't have a line item in our budget that's specific to natural trails. Maggie, is that right? I see you nodding, so I want to make sure I didn't get it wrong.
I just have one more question on the
Yeah.
capital issue. Just want to just be completely clear, and I'm sorry if I'm beating that horse. But, okay, when you look at the numbers on the circle, right? That's your total budget of 62 million.
Yeah.
There's like 2.5 million or something for park design and development. And then you look at the list, there's a capital projects, and you add up all those dollars. Those are not in the circle.
No, and so what I think would be helpful, we could follow up with you on, I'm just looking with my team. We'll send, through Marco, we'll get, and Tyler, we'll get you all like a clear understanding of what is in our PAYGO budget, so you can understand what else is going to be adopted.
So PAYGO is like its own circle.
Correct.
Next to the circle.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Thank you.
you want to say anything?
What you see in the circle is, PDD's like operating budget, so they get some supplies, office supplies, training dollars, and then some of the payroll there. So yeah, it's not tied to.
In our early thing, where we show the breakdown of the different divisions, and one of them divisions is Marcus division that handles all this money. What she's trying to say is that just reflects their operating dollars, which is like some of the payroll and some of the things. It does not. This is a different circle.
Okay, perfect.
But we can
So
get
there's
through.
3 circles really. There's the capital circle, there's the PAYGO circle, and then there's the operating.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I think I had it.
No, I'm happy to answer this because I think the budget is confusing. I think this year is a little confusing. I think it's a great budget for us. I think we're really happy about it. But at the same time, it's really, for me, I think it's really important for you all to like understand it and that we can answer as many questions as possible because it just helps you to be more informed. So outside, I mean, we have one more slide, which is just the dates and things. But outside of that, do you have any more questions about the budget as you guys think about your, go ahead.
Yeah, so the, what makes this possible for you to add so much of these additions is because of the tax,
Correct.
proposed tax increase. If it wasn't for the tax increase, I'm assuming that all of those additions would be out.
I believe yes.
Okay. So how much are you getting additionally from the tax increase?
You asked me to add them up. Yes, I can do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought maybe it's just something that you might know, but you don't have to answer right now, but if you could.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it's about.
How much,
It's like
how
$1
much?
million. It's about 2 million. It's about 2. I'm just thinking of numbers.
Are you asking about the county manager's proposed tax increase or the county board's approved bigger tax?
That's a good question.
This, I mean, this was part of the county manager's proposed budget. So this came out before this came out when he made his proposal, which is his rate.
Which is lower.
Right, and then the board chose to advertise at a higher rate.
Okay, so if the board approves a higher rate, did they say what that extra funding?
But if you've been listening to any of their work sessions, they continue to talk about various things they're interested in. Meaning that, like, should you all have other things you're interested in, you know, there might be opportunities. I have no clue, I'm just sharing, and I know you all have some other things you're interested in potentially.
I mean, I think it's no secret that, you know, a lot of people are interested in the increased hours for the nation. I'm sure we can come up with a longer list than that if we have a chance. Well, I'm excited about the budget too. I'm very encouraged by the commitment to environmental services, especially in finance and treating. And I really appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all. You haven't seen in a while, so. Any other questions before we're done?
Just wanted to acknowledge if there was anyone online from the commissions, if they had any questions or any thoughts on the presentation. There you go, I think we're good.
Okay, great. And, you know, as you guys pull yourself together, like, through Marco, like, we're happy to continue to, or Tyler too, like, happy to answer any of your questions as you put your letter together, or you need clarifications, or if you just want to know more, we're always here to help you, so. Great, thank you.
Okay, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want us to acknowledge?
What? Yeah.
All right, so we can move on to the next section of our meeting, which is the Sports Commission and Park Rec Commission discussion items, and I believe there are 5 topic areas, so we'll turn it over to John and to Jill to introduce those items.
Okay, I'll go up first. I've got 1 in parts of, and I've got 2 B and C, if that's okay. So the way this is going to work, thank goodness we have a small group tonight because it's going to be a little confusing. And thank you guys so much for seeing. We're going to have 5 topics, and we're gonna discuss them among us tables. So that you'll have a table for 3 or 4 people for a total of 25 minutes, so 5 minutes per topic. And Marco is now passing out a sheet for you to fill out from each table, just in case we don't get, for purposes of minutes, because this is a public open meeting. And then after we're done the 25 minutes of talking among our table, then one person from each table will report what the table said. We'll have a more general discussion as well. So I know that's clear as mud, so we're just gonna go with it, and hopefully, if you have any questions, you will ask us. So topic number 1 is the athletic field availability project follow-up discussion. Does anybody not know what the athletic field availability project is? Everybody knows. Okay, so that's we have one person who doesn't know. So the athletic field availability project is a study that's being done by DPR about to try to ascertain whether the fields are being used well and how like what percentage of people are getting to use them, who want to use them.
Yeah, so it's like the QR code of the coaches, if you remember.
Yeah, it's again,
Yeah.
it's the follow-on, so it's the follow-on to the earlier study where they sort of, did all the work about when should fields open, when should fields close, thus creating sort of a bank of hours. And this is the next step in that process of using it, but as Jason said, it's the QR code test. They're going to try it in a couple of fields. I know for sure it's going to be at Williamsburg, and my email will tell me the other one. I forget the other one.
Vermont Junction and then Escalia.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. And then, those are the 4?
Yes.
1 and 2, Vermont Junction, and then those 2.
Okay. So is that enough?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So that's topic number 1. Topic number 2 is how the PRC and SC are supposed to work together. Adam and Lizzie are going to tee up 2A, but 2B and C are really pretty general. What are the points of collaboration that you think there should be among the Sports Commission and the Park and Rec Commission, and where do we have separate but mutual interest? Okay, and now Adam's going to do 2A.
Lizzie, you want to add on? So, it's listed as notification of field closures by DPR, which is related to uses allowed by established memorandum of law. That really what this is about is the relationship between APS and DPR, and that bigger relationship. And there are some MOUs that I understand are being updated or rewritten or renegotiated, I should say, right now. So wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some of the impacts of those current MOUs and how they impact the sports groups. 3 ways in which they do that. One is right now, APS schools, and in some cases, Marymount University, George Washington University, and Bishop O'Connell High School have what's called priority over the fields that are within their domain, whether it be the school itself or in the case of universities, the fields that they have a memorandum of understanding with the county. And the problem is right now is that it isn't priority. They have what essentially is a trump card or veto power. They can simply cancel the user group's permit if they need to use the field for whatever reason. Yep. And so what the priority should be is that they have first ability to schedule the field, but once the permits are issued to the user groups, schools should not have ability unilaterally cancel a permit.
I think you definitely don't want to do that, because then you're not going to get any field time. But I just think that, because if you go that route, then they're just going to say we're not sharing the field.
Well, that's the thing is that they shouldn't. What I said is they already have that power. They already do schedule things ahead of time. But the problem is now they also have it after the I mean, I don't want to get into a debate about it, but, you know, I'm not looking for them to be able to just, you know, take whatever they want for as long.
I think that you have to understand that if the school has a game that's rained out, then they're gonna have to make it up. And if that has been scheduled to somebody else. But the issue I see is sometimes you get notified, sometimes you don't. And that's, you know, sometimes we'll hear, oh, no, wait, there's something else going on there from somebody who's going to that activity, and then we realize we have a problem.
Right, so that was my second point, which is the notification about cancel permits. Even though there's been some improvement over the last few years about that, it's still inconsistent. While you know, my understanding is, I haven't seen the actual understanding, is that the DPR asks the schools to tell them, for example, when a game is being rescheduled because of a rain out. But there's no enforcement of that, and I don't know if it's spelled out in the MOU that they must do that, because it is inconsistent, and sometimes we have shown up to fields for a game and find out that we can't use it because it's being used by the schools, and therefore those kids basically, they lose their game. So we think that it should be spelled out in the memorandum what the expectations are around communication. And ideally, there would be a way to remove DPR staff having to be the middle person in the process, because that can sometimes delay the process. And there's got to be a way we can use technology and process to make sure that there's a way for the schools to be able to put something out there that they're using the field, and that notification being able to be available or a place for the user groups to look to see that a field has been being used for that purpose.
I have just a clarification.
Yeah.
First step, I think the MOUs are actually already done with the school, we've done with the schools. We would.
So the MOUs are done for the three high schools.
Yeah.
Moving the middle schools and elementary schools will be done in the coming year. That's the plan right now.
Okay. And then what about the universities and the official knowledge?
So I know Marymount is, some of them are on block as well, to be redone. I don't know about Mission McConnell off the top of my head, but I can look into that.
Well, and a very remote one is a special case where, because the amount of contribution they put into field one, that's why they get first dibs.
Sure, but it's not first dibs. That was my point.
No,
I don't want we didn't have to have a full discussion about it here. I know we need to have a topic, but let's be clear, just because they might work, does.
So what do they do if they have a playoff? Yeah, their
All
team
right,
makes a
if
playoff.
you want to have an argument, we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
I did not want to get into that at the moment. Okay, and the last part is, it takes an enormous amount of time to get ad hoc reservations for APS facilities. Sometimes it's weeks, I've even had months where we've asked for rooms or facilities and to get the information back. And again, I think that has to do with the MOU. There needs to be an expectation about how long the maximum the schools should take to get back on that, on request for that. That's the main point. So those are three areas. Sorry, it's a little longer.
That's okay. Okay, John, it's your turn to do number three.
All right, so number three is, so you probably see, I'm surprised we haven't seen more about this yet, because they had this big kickoff. Libby's sort of outgoing thing this year is going to be Arlington 2050, which is sort of an envisioning what Arlington looks like. It's a big sort of public envisioning process. Apparently Arlington last did this about 1990 or earlier. And one key piece of this, they did a big kickoff meeting. Supposedly we're all going to get little postcards that fill out sort of what your vision of Arlington 2050 would look like. I mean, at the planning session, for example, mine was like, the idea of putting fields over the highways was a brilliant idea. You know, those kinds of, yeah, sort of like 2050 looking back, saying thank you to today kind of stuff. it's an interesting concept. I'm surprised we haven't seen more. Yeah, they had the big kickoff thing in January, and it made it sound like it was imminent, but I have seen nothing in any stuff. So just be aware that it's coming, and sort of the context for tonight is really begin, maybe at your table, think about what Arlington 2050 looks like.
Yeah, we can send in a postcard.
Yeah.
Okay, Melissa?
We have someone online that we wanted to recognize first.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just didn't know if we had an opportunity to reply to the gentleman's comment about the MOUs, which are already signed for this year. But in terms of rainouts, the schools communicate very quickly with DPR, but the rescheduling is not as simple as it sounds. You have to get a date that's compatible with the opposition, with school staff and officials. So they would love to play the very next good weather day. However, the schedules are set long in advance. So when you're trying to find an open date for all of those stakeholders involved in this game, it's not as easy as it sounds. Schools does make every opportunity to work with DPR, to communicate when things are shut down. And sometimes DPR is the one saying our fields aren't playable. So we, especially just on the diamond fields. So we're sometimes at that decision making as well. So I understand it's hard when you drop games and you can't get them rescheduled for the league play. However, schools are on a different timeline, and we've got postseason deadlines, state deadlines. Those don't move for anything. So to stay within the league's number of games to get played, to go on to postseason, and to get your district play completed, they're on a really tight schedule, and the spring is just challenging just because of weather issues. And so I think we work very well together with DPR. We have good coordination, and we try to, like we said, accommodate each other's needs as much as possible.
Thank you. For those that don't know, Deb is the APS liaison for the Sports Commission.
What's Deb's last name?
DeFranco.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Deb.
Sure.
I think the next one was the ball recycling.
So essentially, we discussed this at the last women's sports meeting. Tennis balls are not easily recycled, so but there are programs for it. So John and I quickly discussed what we knew of the situation. I believe we did not get much of a response, if any, from tennis orgs in Arlington. Correct. So we just kind of looked on our own for options. Unfortunately, it is expensive. Just to sum it up, it is expensive. It involves quite a bit of manpower to move the boxes around, to ship them back, to undo them. I also talked to a Northern Virginia citizen who was posting about online, so I contacted them, and they mentioned that it's a expensive and difficult program, though it's worth it because you have the environment. But they said that it's hard to get buy-in and donate resources from their clubs that they work with, and that they have a problem with the boxes being vandalized, and the sturdy boxes are out of stock, so they cannot be bought. So it's only the thinner cardboard boxes that are meant to be inside, like inside facilities. So like, for example, the Quincy Park tennis courts, you could not have these thin cardboard boxes, and the ones that are sturdy are sold out. So it's basically very tricky. So it kind of, do we want to invest a lot of money and manpower into this, or is this like that has to wait until there's a better time for it?
Okay, thanks, that's a good summary. And then the last issue, the Promise Working Group, which is basically the anti-hate group.
Yeah, so renaming it, so originally named it was Combating Hate, and started in 2021. The end of their first session, they came up with a framework report, and as part of that framework, they were like, we need to refocus our name. And one of the things they had developed were some acronyms, and one of them was Atlas Promise, and I can't fill out all the letters. I don't know, Mark, you probably can't either, but the whole idea was to make it more positive. And the idea of sort of where we are is we convene the leagues together in January, and we're getting ready to start phase 2. And I think there's some discussion questions here. And phase 2 will be helping leagues find some resources, so to help tools and find some tools to sort of think about these topics. And
So is there a racism component to this?
Yeah, it's all about, it's all about, yeah,
Okay,
it's,
that's the basic
yeah,
thrust of it.
that's still the basic thrust.
Okay.
It's about how do you, it's all I was saying, yeah.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Okay. All right, now we're on our discussion, so talk fast and then I have to take your notes.
Just-
Oh, sorry.
So just for those online, we will recognize that there will be small group discussion till 8:10. And then from then, we will reconvene as a larger group. So during that time, I will mute the microphone on Teams, but we will reconvene at 8:10. Thank you.
Once you go online, you have their own discussion,
Yeah. Trail.
All right, I wanted to do just a time check. It is 8:10. Just wanted to see if the groups needed more time to discuss, and we could potentially add another 2 or 3 minutes.
We just have one.
Okay, sure.
That sounds good.
Or we can be in about 2 minutes.
Rush.
All right, everyone, it's 8:12. Just wanted to kick it back out to the chairs to see how you would like to move forward with the report outs.
Should we just have each table?
Sure, should we do do item at a time though, just to make it less quick, just do the whole thing?
Yeah.
I think so, just
Okay.
to at least get that out, and then if there's any general discussion afterwards, I think that would be, so, be as brief as you can on your report, and then we'll have discussion.
Right, so I'll give it another. So on item number 1 about athletic field ability, or athletic field ability project. So I actually think the QR codes are a great idea. Do you want to explore the concept though of, right now, the way it's been pushed is just to the leagues, but if there are casual use users of those fields, encouraging them to also tag in, so you could really get a better sense of the usage. I'm thinking about places like, yeah, even in this pilot, that if you do Williamsburg and get more tagging from the casual use users, you'll see the actual flows. Really making sure to encourage coaches, how are leagues encouraging coaches to actually use it, and is there perhaps a way to get game officials to really push coaches? Yeah, I think as a reminder, I just say that Arlington soccer, for example, is telling all their coaches, and I'm going to be in Williamsburg myself 1 night a week, so I will be wandering around before my practice to say, hey, don't forget. Item number 2. We think fixing the notification, I think where we came out, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that the notification pieces, we think that if there are gaps in that notification process, those should be fixed. And in terms of the MOUs, I don't think we disagree with what sort of the premise that I feel like Longbridge 1, where Marymount, that's Marymount's home field that they largely pay for. And if that means they have to put, if for example, they get a playoff run, they have to push it. I think that was very coherent in why the issues that exist with the schools, with the high school sports, they have the window they have. And yes, and George and I both have experience of getting bumped, and it's not always, and it can be a pain, but it can also be.
You can make it a positive experience by watching a Tigers game.
For Arlington, the Arlington 2050, one thing that first came up is really sort of connecting us more to the river. how do we connect to that vast piece of open space? The boathouse being a first start, but other bits of that, not just as an athletic space, but as a recreational space. Also, given that Arlington is a growing sort of creative use of open spaces, are there funky little spaces that we can figure out how to use? One example, space between the aquatic center and the start of Long Ridge. The fields at Long Ridge, that's a fairly long space that could be, what does access to something like that look like? Ball recycling. Alex made a cool point. This is a litter problem. At the end of the day, it's a litter problem. And the biggest issue probably isn't the tennis players. It's the secondary use of tennis balls by dog owners who then dog gets bored and it gets lost and it ends up in a river or ends up being left beside the sideline. And that, if we can figure out the recycling issue, that's great. But in terms of our priority, in terms of staff time and financial resources, that's we're going to clean the litter. And George had the point of getting some research on what tennis players are actually doing. Sounds like somebody's really cool senior experience project. So, and then Promise Working Group, just that we're in the right track of getting started. All right, that is our table summary.
Wait, what did you say for number 5?
That's the Promise Working Group that we're just cruising along with. They're sort of happy where the commission is, and Alex, that's what Alex said, so we're good.
Okay.
I'll pass it.
As the note taker, I'm happy to do it, happy to yield to others. I'll go in reverse order. We agree that the Promise Working Group should continue to address its issues and explore best methods to implement good citizenship in our sports leagues. Similarly, on the ball recycling, that it could be a worthwhile opportunity to continue to explore cost-effective methods to recycle these tennis balls. On Arlington 2050, we didn't have much to discuss, just I think a general lack of awareness about the project and what it's envisioned, but open ears to continue to learn more. On the field closures, I think there was consensus about improving communications between DPR and APS and others about field cancellations, availability, some differing opinions about the best mechanism to kind of effectuate that shared understanding about how that communication would take place. And on the first issue, talk about I think some better IT and automation to track requests for usage, to track the actual utilization of the reservations for the fields, to better track and to make available the opportunities for constituents to see what fields are available and kind of up to date, maybe even that data week wasn't available.
And then also tracking the demand versus the actual.
Right, thank you. Yeah. If everybody wants, Wednesday at 5 and is not able to get Wednesday at 5.
So our group, on the athletic field thing, we're kind of wondering, or I'm kind of wondering, what DPR collecting this information from the sampling of field. What is the plan for that information? Just with such a small sample size, what are you going to get from that?
Well, I believe right now it's just kind of a pilot program, seeing how well it works and if it's working, but then just to increase field efficiency.
Okay, because I kind of feel like, the user groups could potentially provide you with a schedule there, which would give you a wealth of information rather than just like, did the group show up on this day? I mean, like, scheduled versus showing up. I mean, I can't control like a coach who canceled practice because it's his wife's birthday versus, you know what I'm saying? Like, versus I still have to schedule those people. So like, you know, this is great to see like, did people come? But like, we still have to put everybody on a field so we have that information. I feel like that could be useful or maybe more useful than this. But, and then we had questions about like, who isn't getting the space they want? Like, you know, that how do you get that information? I mean, you're collecting like, did people use it? But like, are you finding out like, well, it would have been really nice to have another field on Wednesday night and Thursday night. We had, you know, more than we needed on Monday and Friday. But are you interested in that information and how would you collect that? And then, I guess I have a little bit here about use of turf fields during rain. Like, I guess if it rains and you've got your monitor in Williamsburg, you're going to be able to say like, oh, normally there would be 6 teams there, but today 2 showed up. And by collecting it the way you're doing, you're going to get that information. And then if a grass field is closed because of rain, I guess you would hope that it's 0. Right, okay. So, and are you going to be tracking weather? So, all right, and then we thought for number 2, is there a way to do something with technology so that, I mean, you're only talking about like schedules for the 3 high school fields, Lumbridge 1 and Tuckahoe, and maybe Jimmy Dean, that field. Would there be some way to, I don't know, like, you know, you've got the weather, I don't know, I'm not sure what notification you could do, but if something got added to that, bumping somebody, would there be a way to like, you know, somehow notify people that need to know, like, is there some, you know, you've got that rained out, but is there something else? I mean, I don't know how often this is happening.
How do you get notified now?
I get a call from Tyler, or email from Tyler saying that.
So it's actually on a human to do this.
Yeah.
Right, it's an example, basically kind of a dashboard, a place, a web page that the groups could go to. And if the school is taking a field because they need it or something, there should be some way for them to indicate that. And then it's there, and then the user groups could be looking at that page on a regular basis. I mean, it'd be great if it was an email, but that's not absolutely necessary. As long as there's a place that they can go where it didn't require your staff to have to go out and call the groups. I mean, not to say that's a hard task, but it just is another step in the process that if we can eliminate, it would make it a lot more efficient for that information to be communicated.
And then, in the 2050, we just kind of talked about like coming up with any way to, you know, create space in an area that you wouldn't know you could create space, like, you know, pickleball over the Minor Hill water reservoir. You know, can you use parking decks or, you know, in the future, like, are there ways to create space for more fields and parks over, you know, the highway or kind of like you all finding little niches. Ball recycling, it seemed like you kept mentioning reaching out to DES.
Because we have a 0 waste policy. And so I think somebody at DES is working on that. So what can we do to support that?
Okay. Is that the sports commission that needs to reach out to DES?
No, we're working on it.
Oh, you're working on it.
But I mean, I think it would be good if both.
Yeah, okay. And then, the Parks Working Group, I guess, people are interested in like an update of where we are. I know we had that meeting about 3 months ago and there was a new group put together.
Yep.
Okay, and
Yeah, that's where they're getting it. It's going to be on the April agenda for the sports commission because they want some direction from us.
Okay.
But we've got three folks from that meeting that are willing to participate.
Okay.
And sports commission folks, just as a heads up, I'm going to be sending out, I'm looking for one of you to be the liaison to that and part of that. So.
Thank you.
All right, I'm probably the only one who can read my instructions.
That's why you have to put your email.
Probably not too much different information that was already discussed, but regarding the field availability project, we felt that pilots may provide some useful data, but overall, the scale may be insignificant and that it needs to be scaled at a higher level to provide any significant data depending on what is interest of what data is being collected. And we can talk about whether, but it's an excellent point, which I think we talked about during our previous meeting on the topic. For the MOUs with the areas, with the teams, we also talked about potential for any centralized software or service where notification or dashboard that folks can go to. From personal experience, when I was doing scheduling, I had to find out specifically from each of the communities that are using that space that could take away what system, like how they are notifying their users and get involved in that one. Because by the time it cycled back around through parts, it was too late for us to notify our users. So it meant chasing down, is your town doing one thing, mail them in third, and Wakefield doing something completely different. And then something plugged into those items, and then Bishop O'Connell, and when you add in all these others, everybody's doing something different within their own communities, and it to the point of, yes, understood, I completely understood what Deb said. There's like a lot of process before everything is completely finalized. So we discussed maybe there's a pre-hold or a pre-notification when a date is being looked at as a rescheduled date, where the sports organizations could see, hey, this isn't canceled on you yet, but there may be a pre-hold of, you might lose this day or something in that area, some sort of kind of early warning. And then if, hey, officials aren't available, you can still have your field. But officials are now good, they're locked in, and now you lose it, something of that nature. Well, okay, we're blaming officials because it's sounded like it's last in the chain, but
We're the last yes.
Yeah.
So when the schools have to line everything
They all have to
up,
line your pockets.
well, they have to get us, and we're usually the last yes. And once we say yes, then you know the game's going to happen.
Correct. I understood what she said. It's like first, school A has to have an open spot on their calendar, school B has to be able to attend, then the field has to be in good playable condition, and then we have to be able to have officials. And if one of those doesn't work, then none of it's going to work. But yes, I just use officials. That's the last one chain. From envisioning Arlington in the future, 2050, I think we generally felt that there wasn't a lot of information being put out to the general public overall. Aside from within the Sports Commission, haven't seen it publicized within Arlington anywhere. So we kind of felt like the county can do a better job of putting information out to get input, survey or questionnaire from citizens. Ball recycling, we generally felt that, while it's a good kind of idea of things to take on, the challenges that we heard were we had sort of a lot of resource for low payoff, but there's potential for the county to do something similar to the way we do glass today. We no longer can get recycled glass picked up at our house, but we have to go drop it off, and there's a larger bin at 2, 3, 4 sites in the county. And so in the same facilities where we have large recycling containers within the county, perhaps they could add something there where people could take their things in the county and could advertise that. And maybe it would be more than tennis balls, maybe it would be sports equipment in general, but then the county would have to take on responsibility of sorting that and determining where it goes and what to do.
And then Promise Working Group, generally speaking, we said that what we're looking for from the Promise Working Group is to provide guidance into the youth organizations on how they can take on these challenges and what improvements or where the guidance on how they can make improvements within their organization, identify the areas of where they may be lacking or have a blind spot that they could relook at their own policies and procedures to help make improvements.
Well done. You know that, Margaret?
Yes.
Thank you, Mark
Yeah.
and Tyler. Is there any more discussion? Anybody want to say anything that they didn't want to say? Sorry, John. Okay, hearing none.
Yeah, so that was the final item for discussion. Just wanted to acknowledge that there will be no separate business being taken during this meeting for either the Sports Commission or the Park and Rec Commission, and we will be reconvening that at our next meetings. So for the Sports Commission, that's on Thursday, April 25th at 7 p.m. And for the Park and Recreation Commission, that is on Tuesday, April 16th at 7 p.m.
And if you guys will hand in your sheets to Marco and Tyler so that you can know this thing, that'd be great.
All right.
Thank you so much to our wonderful staff. Thanks, everybody. Good to meet you guys. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I think I saw you last year.